The Architect's Blueprint. The narrative of Paul's 13 letters explained. Introduction. The Ancient Network. Imagine trying to launch a global underground movement across a massive, highly militarized empire. You have no internet, no smartphones, and the government considers you a dangerous radical. How do you keep your scattered, fragile communities from falling apart, turning on each other, or being crushed by the culture around them? 2,000 years ago, a relentless traveler named Paul solved this problem by creating the ancient equivalent of a decentralized internet. He used a network of brave couriers to hand-deliver letters across the Roman Empire. Paul wrote 13 surviving letters to various cities and young leaders. But these aren't just polite check-ins. They are intense, real-time crisis management documents, brilliant philosophical arguments, and deeply emotional pleas. Together, they outline a massive paradigm shift in human history, challenging the power of Rome, redefining what it means to be human. Let's break his masterwork down into 4 epic phases. Phase 1, the Revolution of Grace, Romans and Galatians. If you want to understand the core engine of Paul's mind, you start here. Before Paul was a traveler, he was a strict elite enforcer of religious law. He believed the only way to please the divine was to follow a flawless, impossible checklist of rules. But in Galatians, an angry and fiercely passionate letter, Paul violently deconstructs this idea. He writes to a community that is slipping back into rigid, exclusionary rules, telling them that forcing people to follow ancient cultural checklists is completely pointless. True freedom, he argues, isn't about perfectly following the law. It is about an internal transformation driven by love and grace. He perfects this argument in his absolute masterpiece, Romans. Written to the capital of the empire, Romans is a towering work of logic and philosophy. Paul lays out a brilliant, airtight case that every single human being, whether a high society intellectual or a forgotten beggar, is equally flawed and equally broken. Therefore, the ground is completely level. No one can earn their way to the top, which means ultimate value is a free gift of grace. It was a terrifying concept to the Roman elites who built their entire society on social hierarchy and status. Phase 2, Crisis Management in the Big City, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. Once Paul established the philosophy, he had to deal with the messy reality of human beings actually trying to live together. 1st and 2nd Corinthians read like the ultimate crisis management. Corinth was the ancient equivalent of Las Vegas, a wealthy, hypersexualized, massive port city filled with competing egos. The community there was an absolute disaster. They were suing each other in public court, getting drunk at community dinners, and fighting over who had the best spiritual gifts. Paul writes these letters to pull them back from the brink of self-destruction. Right in the middle of this chaos, he drops the most famous poem on love ever written, reminding them that without deep, selfless patience, all their intelligence or wealth means absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, in his letters to the Thessalonians, Paul is dealing with a different kind of crisis, severe anxiety. The community in Thessalonica was facing heavy political persecution, and they were terrified about what happens after death and when the world would end. Paul writes to them like a calming mentor, telling them to stop panicking, quiet down, mind their own business, and work hard with their hands. He gives them a blueprint for quiet resilience in the face of political terror. Phase 3, the prison tapes, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, and Philemon. Eventually, Paul's radical message catches up with him, and he is thrown into a Roman prison. But being chained to a guard doesn't stop him. It elevates his thinking. These 4 letters, written in captivity, contain some of the highest, most cosmic imagery in the ancient world. In Ephesians and Colossians, Paul's vision zooms out to the edges of the universe. He describes a grand cosmic repair project where the divine forces are actively putting the shattered, broken pieces of reality back together, creating one unified human family out of a deeply divided set of enemies. In Philippians, we get Paul's most joyful and intimate letter. Despite facing potential execution, he tells his friends that his mind is completely bulletproof. He challenges them to focus only on whatever is true, noble, and beautiful, proving that true joy is in an internal state that no government or prison cell can take away. But the most dramatic of all is a tiny personal letter called Philemon. Paul writes to a wealthy slave owner regarding a runaway slave named Onesimus. With brilliant, subtle pressure, Paul completely bypasses the Roman legal system, telling Philemon to welcome the runaway back, not as a piece of property, but as a beloved equal brother. It is a quiet, explosive letter that planted the philosophical seeds to dismantle the institution of slavery. Phase 4, passing the torch, 1st and 2nd Timothy and Titus. Every great leader knows that they will eventually run out of time. The final phase of Paul's letters, often called the pastoral epistles, are addressed not to large cities, but to his young, hand-picked successors. In 1 Timothy and Titus, Paul is laying down the operational infrastructure. He gives them strict instructions on how to organize the community, how to manage finances fairly, and how to spot fake, toxic leaders who use spirituality just to get rich. The narrative ends with 2 Timothy, Paul's very last surviving letter. It is deeply personal, written from a cold and dark dungeon in Rome right before his final execution. He asks for a warm cloak to survive the winter and for his favorite ancient scrolls. But more importantly, he passes the baton. He tells young Timothy that he has fought the good fight, finished the intense race, and kept his integrity intact. He urges the next generation to take the ancient spark of truth and carry it forward into the dark. Epilogue. The blueprint endures. When you read all 13 letters together, you aren't just reading ancient history. You are reading the ultimate survival guide for building a community. For a young adult navigating the modern world, Paul's letters offers an incredible masterclass in resilience and character. We still live in a culture driven by status, wealth, and anxiety. Paul's letters challenge you to reject the rigid checklists of society, practice radical grace with the people around you, stay intellectually sharp when confronted by chaos, and to realize that your ultimate worth isn't decided by an empire, an algorithm, or your bank account. By focusing on what is true and noble, you can build an unshakable mind no matter what kind of storms are raging on the outside.